So hello everyone, and thanks Elina for the introduction and Isabel. So we will now continue with a part on patient involvement in the conduct of patient preference studies. So Elina talked about how patients can be involved in the design, and I will go a little bit further in the preference study and talk about how patients can be of added value in conducting the preference study itself. So first of all, why do we need to involve patients when conducting a preference study? So here you see a very big list of reasons why patients bring an added value in conducting preference studies. So I've divided it into, first of all, the qualitative study, which is presented on the upper part of the screen, and then also in the survey, where they can also be involved. So you will see here that both in the qualitative part and in the quantitative part, patients' involvement is really crucial to ensure that the aims of the study are relevant to the patient population. As Isabella mentioned in the beginning, we are doing this for patients, so we need to ensure that what we are trying to investigate in a preference study, the results or what we are interested in as drug developers, as researchers, as decision makers, will it actually be also relevant in the end for the patient population? We also need to involve patients to ensure that the methodology that we apply will be understandable to patients. We are conducting a preference study among patients, and therefore we need to ensure that what we ask is also understandable to them. In particular, this was in the qualitative phase, and in the quantitative phase, we need to look out that the questions that we are asking them are then understandable to them. Also regarding the information that we provide to them, both before the study, so the informed consent form and the information sheet where we want to convey what we are doing in the study, and also indeed the questionnaire, that it includes information that is relevant. So what do patients need to know before they are taking part in a preference study, both in the qualitative and in the quantitative phase? Does it include the relevant information, for example, about their data protection or so? We need to look out that patients actually can find whatever questions that they have regarding the study into this information sheet. As Elina also touched upon, we also need to include patients to ensure that the translations are both in a lay language, so understandable, but also accurate from a patient point of view. Then in the organization of both the qualitative and the quantitative phase, so both when we are doing interviews or focus group discussions, or when we are designing the survey, we need to ensure that this organization and the dissemination of both, so the survey, but also the organization of the discussions is really adapted to the needs of a particular patient population. So that the discussions, for example, take place at a moment that is suitable for the patient population. Or if we are using a survey, that the survey is really adapted to patient needs. Then in the further step, when we want to analyze both interview results or focus group discussion results, or when we are analyzing the survey results, we can also incorporate input from patients to ensure that what we have analyzed, whether it accurately reflects the patient's point of view. And finally, in the dissemination step, so when we are talking about the study results, disseminating towards decision makers and towards a broader audience as well, here can patients really provide help as well to ensure when we are, for example, disseminating towards a patient population, that the language again is used in an understandable and relevant way, and as well that we accurately reflect the patient's point of view. So in conclusion, we need to include patients in the conduct of preference studies to ensure that the study aims that we are pursuing are relevant to the patient population, and the methodology that we are using is understandable and suited to the needs of the patient population. So I will now reflect upon particular impact of patient involvement in a preference study that we have conducted within the multiple myeloma patient population. And this was a study that was conducted as well as part of the PREFER project. We involved from beginning throughout members from the Myeloma Patients Europe, which is the umbrella patient organization, and as well patient organizations of national, so country, specific countries, among which CMP Vlaanderen in Belgium, for example. So why did we investigate differences among the multiple myeloma patient population? So in the multiple myeloma therapy context is actually associated with an increasing number of drug therapies which have diverging treatment attributes, as Isabel explained. So these are benefits, risks, uncertainties. And so there are several different types of multiple myeloma treatments that are continuously being developed and becoming available to patients and clinicians. Yet there is no information, based point of view, on what exactly matters most among these attributes or characteristics to the patient populations who in fact will be confronted with these different benefits, risks, and uncertainties in the end. So that is why we performed a patient preference study consisting, first of all, of a qualitative phase, as Isabel explained, and afterwards of a quantitative phase. And so here I will reflect on what patients, what type of changes they actually led to, both in the qualitative study phase and in the quantitative study phase. So in the qualitative phase, patients, and here I mean patients so diagnosed with multiple myeloma, as well as members from the myeloma patients organizations, they pointed towards the fact that the discussion guide that we wanted to use in the beginning needed to be shortened, so that the discussion could take place within a shorter time period. They also pointed towards the need to clarify certain elements in the patient document, so in the information sheet, as well as in the informed consent. And so by pointing towards the need to shorten and to clarify certain elements, they helped reducing the cognitive burden of both documents. But as well, okay. So I will resume where I left off and make it very quickly so not to go over the time. So I can summarize both the qualitative and the quantitative phase, where patient input was really crucial to point towards how we could reduce the length of both the qualitative phase and the survey phase, so that we needed to shorten the discussion guide and as well the survey, so reducing the number of questions. They also helped clarify, make it really tailored in patient language to both the qualitative and the quantitative phase. So they helped clarify certain elements so that it was all clear to patients. And by doing so, they helped reducing the cognitive burden of both the qualitative and the quantitative phase. And in the analysis phase, their input was really crucial as well. So patients and both patients and members from the patient organization were involved in the analysis by reading really the draft results and providing input, raising questions, which allowed us researchers to bring more depth into the analysis and into the presentation of the results. The patient organization also was really key in the dissemination of the results. In fact, today we are spreading a poster at a conference, and this is totally led by a patient organization itself, which they drove in creating the poster. So also the involvement of patient organizations in the dissemination of a preference study result is really key. So by that, I will conclude my presentation. So patient involvement is really needed to ensure that the aims are relevant to the eventual patient population, that the methods applied are understandable for the patient population, and that they meet the needs in an organizational sense of the patient population. And also by their involvement in the analysis, that the results are comprehensive, meaningful, and accurate from a patient point of view. And thereby, by involving patients as researchers, this will improve the quality of the study and thereby increase the value and the usefulness of the study towards decision makers.